Now we're going to listen to and learn something more about another product that could also be powered by the sun and then would be totally independent of grid and other systems. And this is a vehicle. It's made by Light Materials, and it's meeting high security standards. It could be described similar to an auto rickshaw, and I leave it over to Mr. Göran Folkesson from Clean Motion.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone in India. I'm I hope you can hear me fine, and I will just check to make sure that my screen is presented correctly. And can you now see my presentation screen?
Yes, Mr. Göran.
Yes. So then, thank you for taking your time, and I would like to introduce Clean Motion and our product, the CB, which stands for a zero-emission vehicle, and B, it is our little working bee that we hope can do radical things about urban transportation in the future. And as you are well aware, everyone, the challenges in urban transportation is increasing rapidly. We have a big urbanization trend with more and more people moving into the cities, but with only limited infrastructure increments. It leads to a worse and worse situation for transportation. And if you look at the urban transportation specifically, I think you can divide it into 4 areas. One is, of course, that transportation is rather energy inefficient, and the transportation increase leads to enormous increases of the greenhouse gases. But even more apparent, I believe, is the local emissions. The air quality of the cities becomes worse and worse, and it's very evident throughout all the mega cities, and I visited Delhi quite recently, and we have some serious issues there. And of course, with the increased traffic, there is less and less space on the roads, so congestion is an increasing issue. And even if we spend a lot of more time in traffic, a big part of any city has to be devoted to find parking places for all the vehicles. And if you want to introduce electric cars into this, traditional cars, basically the energy consumption doesn't change very much, and the congestion is the same, and the parking issues are all the same. You do get an enormous improvements in air quality, of course, since we have a zero tailpipe emission. But in general, electric cars are still quite expensive and with only limited effect on the overall issues about urban transportation. There was a very interesting study presented by Embark, which is a think tank located in Delhi, who looked very carefully at the role of the auto rickshaw sector in the future. And to summarize that report, you can say that as the public transportation system is built up and improved, there will be an increased need for first and last mile connectivity to connect the metro or whatever public transportation system there is with homes or with shopping malls, or the first and last mile connectivity. And this report points out that the auto rickshaw sector will increase in importance to aligned with the increased services of public transport. And the major needs for improvements from the auto rickshaw is when it comes to emissions and when it comes to road safety. Because these...
Mr. Joran?
Yes?
Sorry to interrupt you, but the people here are not able to listen to you properly. So can you be a little louder, please?
I'll try to.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Is this an improvement, you think?
If that is a maximum, it will be fine, sir. But we request you to be a little louder. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. So the role of the auto rickshaw will increase in importance with the build-up and the expansion of public transportation system, because an increase in the public transport will increase the need for first and last mile connectivity. But the current auto rickshaw has especially two problems. One is related to the emissions. With small engines, it's very difficult to get them clean. So the tailpipe emissions is a serious issue, and the other is the road safety. This is CB. This is our product, and it's an all-electric three-wheeler. And it's not only electric, it's built in an entirely new way. It's built using a composite monocoque body, which means that we can decrease the weight significantly and still increase the safety of the passengers inside it. So in a very short description, this is the auto rickshaw of the future. And thanks to the very lightweight construction and the very high efficiency of the electric motors, we reduce the energy consumption significantly compared to any other mode of transportation. And of course, since it's fully electric, there is no tailpipe emissions, which means that an extended use of CBs in any cities will improve the air quality. And of course, it's about the same size as an auto rickshaw, so it's a very nimble companion in any dense traffic situation. And the same applies for parking. You can actually fit 4 CBs into one ordinary parking space. It's built on 3 foundations, 3 very important foundations. The first one is the safety aspects. We believe strongly that any vehicle transporting people must ensure the highest possible safety standards. So I hope that you caught the crash test on the screen here. It was made in May last year, and as you see, this was an impact of a rigid structure in 27 kilometers per hour. corresponding to hitting a car in roughly 45 to 50 kilometers per hour, and the entire vehicle is still structurally intact in terms of this passenger compartment. We also feature 3-point seat belts for all passengers, which means that this is a very, very safe mode of transportation, which is one of the aspects pointed out by the Embark study on the auto rickshaw of the future. It's a very low complexity vehicle. It only consists of 270 parts, and that's made possible by using the composite materials, which has made it possible for us to integrate very many functions in very few parts. So this makes it possible to allow for a distributed manufacturing model. So we believe that the future way to build CB vehicles is in micro factories distributed very close to the end users of it. And the energy efficiency is very important from several aspects. The first one, and very importantly so, is that we can, thanks to the energy efficiency, we can decrease the size of the battery, and we use the most advanced lithium batteries available. But since we have a very high energy efficiency, we require much less battery than an ordinary vehicle. That also means that we get a much smaller carbon footprint, of course, and in the end we get a much lower operational cost. But it has other benefits as well. It means that the charging infrastructure, we have very few demands on the charging infrastructure, because when you charge a CB vehicle, it consumes less than a vacuum cleaner or a microwave oven. So we don't have additional requirements on the electricity infrastructure, which is quite common when you look at ordinary electric cars. So any socket will do. And as I mentioned, we look to manufacture this very close to the end users, and we foresee very small microfactories that are capable of building up to 3,000 units per year. We see this as an optimal size. It can be profitable from volumes as low as 700 vehicles per year. And this is a very important aspect, because it allows us, and again, this is thanks to the composite technology that we are using. We don't have these huge investments that are generally associated with the automotive industry or the auto rickshaw industry, with the sheet metal stamping and pressing and welding factories, because we just do molds of plastic and glass fiber and some carbon fiber technologies. And just as a comparison, since we have this very, very simple vehicle architecture, it allows us to do this distributed manufacturing. If you were to assemble 10,000 parts, obviously you would need a centralized factory doing at least 100,000 units. But a CB can be assembled by a single assembly worker in a day. And just to provide some, because the energy efficiency and talking about energy use units is is quite complicated, and it's hard to realize how much energy is 1 kilowatt hour of energy. So this chart basically illustrates that 1 kilowatt hour of energy is enough to boil 5 liters of water on oven. It corresponds to using 1 deciliter of petrol, which is basically gets you 1 kilometer in a BMW, or you can drive 25 kilometers in a CB. So I think this very well illustrates the energy efficiency of our vehicle. And energy efficiency leads to energy consumption, and energy consumption in the end, even if we have 0 tailpipe emissions from a CB, somewhere the electricity is produced. And if we look at the Nordic countries, we have a combined Nordic energy market, and the energy mix gives us only 100 grams of CO2 per kilowatt hour, and that leads to emissions of 4 grams CO2 per kilometer on a CB. But most parts of the world have a situation where we rely on coal power to provide electricity, and in that case we are still very, very low. We are only at 36 grams CO2 per kilometer if you include that. And any other electric car, if you take a Nissan Leaf, would be up in the level of 180 grams CO2 per kilometer, which is really not good at all. So the energy efficiency is the key to allow us to reduce the emissions from the transportation sector. And frankly, the most important aspect to get energy efficiency is to reduce weight using new technologies. So far Clean Motion and the CB, we have produced it in Europe, and especially we have rolled out the product in Sweden, but we also have a few samples in other parts of Europe, like in Spain. We are also in the process of starting the manufacturing operations this month in Indonesia. And in Indonesia we have a very big interest from both the city of Jakarta, and even the Indonesian president has been investigating our vehicle. Now we are moving into Delhi, and I'm really happy to be able to announce that we are in the process to forming a joint venture located in Delhi, to be able to do not only the manufacturing part of the operations, but we will also build a vehicle cluster providing this first and last mile connectivity that we talked about. And this will be located in, so the first cluster of vehicle will be located in the Select City Walk in Saket in Delhi. And it will be a feeder service to the metro station. So when you come to the metro, you can take a CB and go to the Select City Walk, and when you're done shopping, eating and dining, you can take the CB back to the metro station. So it's actually an accelerator for sustainable transport, in that it will increase the usability of the public transport sector. Of course, these first vehicles, these are much more advanced vehicles than the existing auto rickshaws. And even if we will reduce the cost dramatically. Electric vehicles are still more expensive than combustion vehicles. But thanks to advertising agreements, we can make a profitable business model of zero-emission vehicles as well. And Airtel will be the first advertiser on the first vehicles. So we are very much looking forward to that cooperation. And again, on a larger scale, you can see this crash test. And as you see, the entire structure is intact. So this will be an enormous improvement of the safety standards of the small vehicles in the cities. Thank you very much. That was a first and very short introduction, and I'll be very happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Explain more about that.
Thank you, Mr. Joran. All the participants, I request you to kindly type your questions in the chat box there. Mr. Joran, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
The participants, I request you to kindly type your questions in the chat box. Mr. Joran, we have the first question here. Yes. What is the material of the body of the vehicle?
It's a composite material. So basically, it's a sandwich construction consisting of a fiberglass composite with a core material. So it's more or less the same kind of material that you would find in a modern boat or in a modern aircraft.
All right, thank you, Mr. Joran. The next question is, with a fully charged battery, how many kilometers can we travel?
Yes, with the current battery installation, you can travel 50 kilometers on a charge. We are looking into both smaller and larger batteries. When using it for a point A to point B service, you basically would not need the full 50 kilometers, but you would need a non-stop service availability. So we are looking into a solution where you can have the battery pack replaced. So perhaps we will introduce an even smaller battery, perhaps only 20 kilometer range, but have a battery replacement service so that you within just 2 or 3 minutes can replace the battery with a fully charged and continue the service. But we are also looking into a larger battery which would provide in the somewhere close to 80 kilometer range.
All right, thank you, Mr. Joran. The next question is, what is the type of battery that is being used, and what is the charge regime, and can we charge it internally?
Charge it internally. I didn't fully understand that question, but it's a lithium iron phosphate battery, so it's a lithium ion battery pack. It's a 2 kilowatt-hour pack, and the vehicle have a charger of it's 900. The chargers are available from 900 watts to 1.5 kilowatts.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Yoran. The next question is it possible to repair the body considering that India is prone to accidents?
Yes, it is. It is possible to repair the body up to a point. If it takes part in a real crash, like the crash test I showed you, then there will be internal structural damage, which is part of the safety aspects. You want the internal structure to absorb energy and thereby be crashed. But if it's smaller accidents, then you repair it quite easily, very much the same way as you would prepare or repair a boat.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Yoran. The next question would be, with one full charge, how many hours can we run?
Actually, our limit is not in the amount of hours, but only in kilometers. So if you're stuck in a traffic jam, it will not consume any energy. So it can basically travel 50 kilometers, and regardless if that takes you 1 hour or if it takes you 5 hours, the range is roughly the same. Of course, the range is somewhat reduced if it is very heavy start and stop traffic. But generally, the big benefit about electric vehicles is that when it stands still in a traffic jam, it doesn't consume any energy.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Yoran. The next question would be, is solar charging possible with a PV to a ZB top?
Yes, we are actually looking into that, and we are forming a research project using a very novel PV panel technology, which would be a thin film, and what we need is a flexible structure so that it can be fitted directly on top of the roof. And we have a partner in that, and I believe that within the next couple of years we will be able to provide this as a general solution, being able to extend the range significantly. But it is a little bit too early to say how much extra energy will be absorbed from the PV panels. It's still an open issue on what's the actual efficiency ratio will be of the panels. And it's not only related to the panels, but it's also the electrical conversion into a voltage that is chargeable to the battery. But we believe strongly that the solar panels will be a future model of the CB. And our ultimate target is to increase the energy efficiency of both the PV panels and the vehicle itself, so that in most situations you could consider the CB to be energy autonomous.
All right, thank you, Mr. Yoran. The next question would be, any distributors are available in India? Are there any distributors in India?
We will not use a distribution model as such, at least not initially. We are, as I mentioned, we are forming a subsidiary that will be located in Delhi, and we are looking to franchise the vehicle cluster model. So it will be, we will run the first vehicle cluster in Saket, Delhi, in the City Select Mall, and we will use that as a model to develop a franchise operation where you can take an entire vehicle cluster and operate it. So we will not, at least not in the beginning, do a one-of-a-kind vehicle sales.
Thank you, Mr. Yoran. The next question is, what is the typical cost of a vehicle?
We estimate, because we are planning to build this in India, and we are estimating the cost to be in the range of $8,000. But again, we will not sell it as that, but we will rather franchise the full operation of a rental fleet. And when you deduct the advertisement fees that we can bring in on this novel kind of vehicles, it will be on par or less than a traditional auto rickshaw service.
All right, Mr. Yoran, thank you. The next question would be, is it the same taxi where Punjab government is doing the project, like Pod Taxi in Amritsar?
No, it's not the same project.
All right, Mr. Yoran. The participants, I will request you to kindly type your questions in the chat box. Any more questions? Participants, I will request you to kindly type your questions in the chat box.
Repeating your question.
We have a question, repeated question saying that what is the cost of the unit?
I would like to answer.
And as I said, we estimate that the cost will be $8,000. But again, it will not, at least originally, be sold as a one-off product, but it will be a contract arrangement including advertising and the rental fee for the vehicle.
Thank you, sir. The next question is, what kind of partners are you looking for in India?
We are looking for cities that are interested in allowing fleets of electric vehicles, but we are also looking for especially composite manufacturing partners. We already have in place an assembly partner, but we are looking for further partners to do vehicle assemblies in other parts of India as we grow. But our starting point will be Delhi, but we are very interested in expanding across the great nation of India, which we believe is a huge market. So generally, we are interested in cities, in composite manufacturing partners, in assembly partners, and also possible suppliers for components.
All right, thank you, sir. The next question would be, are you looking for partners from battery industry or auto ancillary industry?
Yes, At the moment, we already have a battery partner, but as we evolve, there may be a need for other battery partners as well. But I think in general we are looking for possible suppliers to perform an Indianization of the CB product.
All right, thank you, Mr. Yoram. The next question is, can it be charged in homes?
At home, yes. It can be charged using basically any socket. The power requirements to charge the vehicle is very, very small. The charger does not consume more than a microwave oven.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Yoram. Participants, I would request you to kindly type your questions in the chat box. There's one more question, Mr. Yoram. It says that how much is the battery cost as a percentage of total cost of the vehicle?
The battery cost is roughly 20% of the vehicle cost.
Right, thank you. And one more question is, how much localization are you targeting when you mention localized manufacturing?
We don't have a specific target for that. We are and we are not so much looking for. I need to clarify a little bit. We are looking to some parts will be localized on each market that we enter, and that could be parts like the windscreen, for example, which are very clumsy to ship around the world. But in general, we are looking to find the best available suppliers that can deliver high quality and the best possible price, and do that on a global level. So if we find a very good supplier of rear axles, for example, in Indonesia, we want to use that globally. And if we find a very good supplier of front forks in India, we want to use that as a global supply to all the markets. But there are, so we don't have a specific target for how much Indianization that we want to perform, but the overall target is that if it's possible to supply worldwide, then that is what we are looking for.
Right. Yes, how time will it take to fully charge, and we also do.
I'm sorry, could you please repeat that? I think the audio connection went bad.
With a 230 volts 50 hertz supply.
Again, I couldn't hear. I'm very sorry. Hello?
Will it? Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, now I'm back.
How much will Mr. Yoran, can you hear me? Hello, Mr. Yoran. Mr. Yoran, can I hear you? Mr. Yoran, can you unmute yourself, please? We are unable to hear Mr. Yoran, but question will take like this. On the charger is charge.
Still unmuting.
Hello, Mr. Yoran.
Yes, finally I'm back. I'm sorry for that.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you now.
Okay, great. So I believe the last question was how much time it will take to charge it completely, and it's if it's completely empty, the battery will take about approximately 3 hours to charge with the standard charger, and we can also install a larger charger where it takes less than 2 hours.
All right, sir. There's one more question here, which says that, do they require any marketing agency for this in India?
That may be the case as we move out of Delhi, and in the future, I do believe that one of the big aspects will be the sales of advertising onto the vehicles, which will be a very important part of the business model.
All right, sir. Participants, I would request you to kindly type your questions in the chat box. Participants, any more questions, I would request you to type it in the chat. Participants, any further questions, I would request you to kindly type it in the chat. All right, there are if there are no further questions, I would like to thank Mr. Yoran and Mr. Christina. That was very beautiful question. We would like to thank all the Indian companies for their participation. We will be sharing the recorded session and the presentation with you over mail. Please do send us your feedback and queries if there are any. And looking forward to having you all with us for the B2B meetings in April next month, which is going to happen in Mumbai and Chennai. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yoran.
Thank you, Mr. Ludwig.
Thank you, Mr. Ludwig. Thank you, Mr. Yoran. And thank you, Ms. Christina. We end the webinar session now. Thank you.